didn't really know that that's the metropolitan area, that Atlanta itself is really very small. I didn't realize that I should probably be looking a little more closely to what's going to be happening in the area that I'm interested in. What's going on with that neighborhood? Are they building anything? Are there more amenities coming to that space? Is the community walkable? Will it be walkable? What about that neighborhood is attractive to others? Because if it's attractive, if it becomes in demand, then my value goes up. I didn't know that. I didn't know that when I was purchasing a house, I was chasing a floor plan, a 3-bedroom, a 3-bath. I needed certain fixtures. I liked a certain elevation. And I think a lot of us shop that way. So for me in this role, I'm understanding now that it's all about starting with a location, finding out what's happening, and then going from there with your shopping, as opposed to sort of the other way around. I'm looking for a home and not really focusing as much on the neighborhood.
Well, that seems, most people still can't distill what you mean. So let's think of the elements, and I'll say this in ownership. You mentioned community, you mentioned development, you mentioned the location, which was really key. If you had to tell your 21-year younger self now on how to shop, because we have obviously future generations really, which I appreciate, Michelle, you're kind of even being vulnerable and sharing for our community. Hey, change your glasses, literally look at this as not a floor plan, but a life plan and ownership of wealth for future generations. So how would you tell them to put their glasses on, and how can we help them focus in on those things that you would, let's say the top 4 today versus bathroom, 3 bedrooms? What are that top 3 that kind of evolved for you now that you have these new glasses and clearly want the community as a community engagement specialist to see?
I would say when you're thinking about homeownership, you need to also think of 5 to 10 years into the future. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Where do you see yourself in terms of a neighborhood? What are you going to be looking for? My daughters were young, very young at the time. I decided to move way out in the suburbs, which definitely had its purpose when they were younger. Now I'm an empty nester, way out in the suburbs, right? So I think it's important for people to think about their life and then think about their goals. If you're living in a space where you're starting to build wealth, you have an opportunity to think about using that equity toward some of your plans. So that would be maybe the second thing. You're going to think 5, 10 years out, but you're also going to think about yourself 5 to 10 years out financially. Where are you going to get the college money if you haven't started saving for it already? Can you pull that out of your home after you refinance? Those are types of things that I think people should sort of think of. How can my house make me money? Okay. And then the third thing is when you decide, or if you should decide to change your lifestyle. If you think you're going to be that empty nester who doesn't want to be out in the suburbs, who would prefer to be down the street from the next concert venue, think about that as well. Where is that neighborhood? Where is that home that's somewhere maybe between the suburbs and the heart of the city? So think about your lifestyle and where you'll be in 5 to 10 years in terms of a lifestyle and what it is that you want to be doing from a day-to-day basis. So those are the top 3 things that I would tell my 21-year-old. That's what I tell my daughters now at 26 and 29, and they're starting to get it. They start to understand now.
So for those who have no idea what you just said and they still don't want to get it, and I know you're being kind and trying to describe it, but literally, where are we telling them? Why don't we give them an example? Because you've got some great examples that you can kind of walk them through to help them understand how it develops. And then we'll come back and kind of if you would kind of showcase a little bit of information to give them a vision of Atlanta that they may not have for themselves, as we have this ride lab and understanding the acquisition, a future vision of seeing. So for all those, we want you to be able to take away, here are the envelopes and the winners are, and we want you to see how these neighborhoods and how you win inside this. So if you'll share with us now, Ms. Lewis.
I will. Let me pull this up really quickly. Awesome. All right. So it's a PowerPoint presentation. In case you don't know who Invest Atlanta is, we are the economic development authority for the city. And we work really very hard to make life wonderful for Atlantans. It means a lot of different things. You drive past some of those projects every day. Pond City Market is an example of housing finance. We were able to set aside some affordable apartments for folks there that are available for less than market rate. We've talked to big companies and said, come to Atlanta, bring your jobs with you. Redevelopment projects such as the College Football Hall of Fame is ours. Downtown, we were able to assist in that redevelopment of that space. And then we also help the everyday folks with their small businesses and of course, buying a home. La Fruta is an example of that. I think oftentimes I hear from people why live in town. There are so many different reasons. You want to be closer to jobs. There's better access to public transportation. More businesses are moving. The access to the green space and the nightlife and the day life, just being able to walk across the street to a coffee shop. Those are all reasons to live in town. But I think for the biggest and the most important, honestly, is the fact that the residences and the city tend to retain their value better than those homes out in the neighborhoods that end in the Dill, the Vills, the Burns, that are a little ways out. This is a map of some redevelopment projects that are happening in the city. At one point, I used this map, Munson, just to tell people this is what's happening. This is what's going to happen. This is on the horizon. These projects are actually sprouting out of the ground now. So people who are looking to purchase homes may want to keep in mind where these redevelopment projects and what they will mean to that area, that community, because those types of projects bring amenities or enhance amenities. And when those amenities start popping up new or improved, then you're looking at the value of your home actually increasing. So if I could just go around this map really quickly, Turner Field, the old Turner Field, we know Georgia State purchased it. That means that for Summer Hill, there will be some amenities that Georgia State will make certain are available for the folks there as they try to sort of connect that part of town with the rest of the campus, which is downtown. We know that the Beltline is actually making its way from the east side all the way down to the south side. And people who are not familiar with the Beltline, it's very much like the High Line in New York City. It's an old railroad corridor that's being repurposed for light rail, ultimately. That's sort of inching its way around from the south side to the west side. And then of course, it'll make a complete 22-mile loop of rail and 31-mile loop of trails. So a lot of connectivity. So those amenities and all these neighborhoods, again, are gonna help with the equity in your home, your value. 352 University Avenue is now called Pittsburgh Yards. That is a redevelopment project that the Annie E. Casey Foundation got together with the good folks in the neighborhood Pittsburgh. So imagine living in Pittsburgh and walking across the street to work, which is awesome, or jumping onto the Beltline to get elsewhere would be great. Georgia State Farmers Market, not to be confused with the university, but the state of Georgia owns land that was the farmers market, really popular farmers market there for a while. That's being redeveloped as Murphy's Crossing, and just southwest of there is Fort Mac. We know Tyler Perry purchased Fort Mac, a big part of Fort Mac, I should say. And I can remember having that conversation about, this is what's happening, this is what's coming to Fort Mac, without really knowing what was on the horizon. Now I can say that it's a beautiful studio complex that he's done an amazing job with. And there are lots of amenities that are sort of popping up around Fort Mac that are helping support that studio in terms of it being a tourist destination. We know that the new stadium has replaced the Georgia Dome for the Falcons. And we also know everybody who was here in the 90s at any part of time, they came to the underground. That was, you didn't leave Atlanta without seeing the underground, right? So here's the underground. If you buy a condo in one of these buildings on top of the underground, as the underground gets redeveloped, your equity is going through the roof. Your value is going up. So you go to bed every night, you're sleeping and the work is being done for you. And that's going to take place just about anywhere you're in close proximity to new redevelopment projects. There's another vantage point of Summer Hill. You can see downtown from here. You're going to see lots of amenities popping up for the wonderful legacy residents who live in Summer Hill and who've been there. They won't have to get in their car to get to the grocery store anymore. The grocery store will be just a few steps away. Their home is going up in price as well. They'll be able to build wealth, see some of the wealth that has been slowly increasing, definitely increase a lot faster with these new amenities. Pittsburgh Yards, we talked about. Again, you can see it's a very vast, big space that includes a lot of green space. So that's going to afford a lot of opportunities for recreation for people who live right there in the neighborhood, as well as bringing in tourists. So imagine the opportunities that you have building equity when you've got this just down the street, Cook Park. Green space is big. Green space is very big. People don't think a lot about parks, but when parks are there, they pretty much stay there. They're not going to tear up a park to put something on top of it. They're pretty much there. So if you live around a park, you're living within walking distance, or you somehow end up just across the street from the park, you're going to do very well with increasing your equity as well. The Met, this was something that people probably drove by without understanding at all what it was, but these are lofts. These are work lofts where a lot of mom and pop companies are sort of in each one of these spaces, but now we've opened it up to the public to be able to come in and purchase some of the products and services that they sell. Lots of really cool things that happen here. And of course, from this vantage point, you can see the Atlanta skyline. If you end up in any of these neighborhoods near this redevelopment project, that's equity. And then Weston Mall, one of my favorites. Listen, I'm a Spelman mom and a Morehouse godmother. And so I was pretty busy on campus from 2004 all the way to 2017. So very often I would stand in for parents who lived out of town. And then when they come in town, they always thought they'd come and stay with me, but I live way out. What do? They want to go and be close to the school. Well, that meant staying downtown for the most part. If they were coming in for a concert that their children, their college students were performing in, if it was a probate, if it was homecoming, graduation, they had to stay downtown. Weston Mall is sort of bringing that architecture from the West Coast, or what we see here locally in Atlantic Station or the Avalon, to the West End. So the parents will be happy to know that with this new architecture will include a hotel right down the street from the AUC. That makes life a lot easier, and not just for the parents. So imagine coming back as alum or even as an active student, if your architecture, your mall is sort of set up this way, as opposed to, if it's inside out, if you will, as opposed to having to walk in the building and all the way through, you're losing some time. This way, students can pop in, get what they need. They can enjoy the green space, study on the green space, and hop the shuttle to go back to campus. So these are lots of things that people drive past and don't think anything about it. And the same goes for these structures. So people often will see houses look abandoned, they're by themselves, you might be deteriorating, honestly. And there'll be 2 or 3 neighborhoods over from some of these redevelopment projects. It's those ripple neighborhoods that can afford you quite a bit of equity because you're not right there adjacent to those projects. You're rippled out from that epicenter. into those ripple neighborhoods, and you get a chance to actually approach homeownership differently when you buy a fixer upper, right? So we all watch the Property Brothers. We watch the one brother bring the family over and they are looking for this brand new home and they have a checklist and the checklist is super long. They want all of these things. And the real estate brother, I think his name is Drew. Drew says, sure, this is your house. This is what you need. We've got it. And then they ask how much it is. And Drew says, well, it's $1 billion. And then the other brother comes in, Jonathan, and he's like, oh, you know, hey, I can help you with this. And let's look at another way to do this. And he takes them to a house like the one on the left. And before you know it, they've agreed to his helping them achieve the house on the right. These are the types of things that happen right under our noses. We don't know them. They're in the headlines. They're in the newspapers. They're in some of the magazines that we get digitally. These are the headlines about development, and they don't necessarily have to be trade publications. It's just, you know, sometimes you got to look, you know, you hear that Apple is coming to town, you hear that Microsoft's coming to town. They're going to land in an area that's going to, they'll be that epicenter. And again, those ripple neighborhoods will be the ones that benefit a lot from that equity. So just keep in mind the location. Keep in mind where you want to be in the next 5 years as it relates to lifestyle. Keep in mind what it is that you're trying to achieve even in the meantime. So if you know that you want to go back to school and you think you might be able to leverage your tuition with your equity, great. If you're almost an empty nester, you're thinking about it, long range, where do I want to be? Then look in the neighborhood that is going to sustain you, you know, as you grow older. There are so many factors that I think we overlook chasing a floor plan instead of a life plan, that we can make that change. It's an easy switch. It's just a matter of being informed. And I think we've had the last year and a half or so to really think about how we can research. And we've had to get used to technology, right? So we have the opportunity now to dig in and take a look at what's out there to learn. And I think you'd be surprised how easy it is.
Super. So sounds easy, relatively. How does Invest Atlanta help with this?
So what's great about Invest Atlanta, and I get excited about this when I talk about it, we have down payment assistance programs. So everyone has a path to homeownership, but very often people have great jobs, they have good credit, just don't have the down payment. So the down payment is where we sort of come in. If they are eligible for our programs, we are happy to help. We have a 5-step program. It's really easy. We have 6 different incentives to take advantage of. And we actually have community partners that eligible home buyers can take advantage of our down payment assistance programs and then add ours to those that are offered by our partners, Atlanta Housing and Atlanta Neighborhood Development Partnership. That's ANDP, as well as the City of Atlanta NSP program. So with our program, we of course ask them to attend a Q&A session where we take a deep dive, let them know about the process, what to anticipate, how much money they can get. And then they'll enroll in an 8-hour class because education is really important to us. We want people to understand what to expect from the process. People should feel empowered. And this is a great way to start that empowerment with a homebuyer education class facilitated by one of our partners. They would move forward with getting pre-qualified for a mortgage with one of our participating lenders. And then they're going to find a home inside the city limits of Atlanta. Again, inside the city limits of Atlanta. We'll help with that. Sometimes that's hard. You move here, you're in Stone Mountain and you keep calling it Atlanta. It's a little further out than our city limits. So we'll help you make sure that that home is inside the city limits of Atlanta. And then you close with one of our attorneys. You're going to hear from one of our two of our lenders actually, and one of our closing attorneys in the conference coming up. So I'm sort of introducing this, but you will have an opportunity to hear, the really good stuff later on.
So if someone was thinking how and what happens in a home buyer's education class, just some, high level, why it's important to attend, you and the family would enjoy at least taking the class, whether you participate, but what can you get out of this class that many will miss? And obviously for me, any class helps remove fear or doubt that, it's possible, or that one of the things I love about Invest Atlanta is they're committed to qualifying everybody who wants to participate and who does qualify and understands how to take this journey.
So the homebuyer education class, what I think is most beneficial is in those 8-hour blocks, there are 8 representatives from the home buying process. You're going to hear from a real estate agent. You're going to hear from a lender, an inspector, an appraiser. You're going to even hear from homeowners insurance companies so that you sort of understand what to expect from the process, the home buying process, and what to expect once you move in. So it's really beneficial. When I bought my house, I had no idea what I was signing. So those are the types of things that are reviewed and gone over in these 8-hour classes. And all of our partners are very careful to make sure that the people that they have come in and speak are very reputable and know a lot about their craft. So it's really important that people go, but it is very enlightening at the same time.
So it removes anxiety, truly finds and introduces you, which I love about Invest Atlanta, introduces you to the practitioners and takes these character names, whether it's appraiser or whether it's real estate agent, closing attorney, identifies them and really makes it so that the journey to home ownership is there for all of our individuals. Why is pre-qualifying important as you're going out on this mission to obtain a home?
You got to know what you're shopping with. As easy as it is for us to hop in our cars and drive down the street and check signs in the yards, or to use some of the search engines that are available to us online, if we don't know what we've qualified for, we really don't know where to begin that search. So the participating lender, that lender is going to take sort of a financial snapshot of where you were, where you are, and where you plan to be. And this is going to help them determine what they can loan you in terms of a mortgage. And that is the number that you use to go shopping with. So you have to do that. There are agents out there that won't even begin to work with you until you've been pre-qualified.
Cool. The other thing, being pre-qualified, once again, you're able to take out and begin your budgeting process, because now you know exactly what the cost of the mortgage is going to be. You have a good idea of the insurance. You can set in terms of your life budget where you think you'll be as it relates to growth in your income, those kind of things, because you're now pre-qualified and has a lender who understands where you are in your financial life journey. Is that right?
That's right. And so it's really interesting that you said life journey, because there's somewhat of a life counselor during that home buying process. They're going to let you know exactly what you need, and again, what to anticipate from the process and from the closing. Those are the things that you're going to need to know well before you get to that closing table. So they're going to help you with that.
Well, I appreciate this lab because it's been great to really understand the journey to home ownership, but also that connectivity that you provide in allowing our community to understand the ripple effect on this journey to home ownership and being able to connect those ripples with opportunities as it relates to stake your claim to Atlanta and figuring out what neighborhood can be in your future and plan the wealth as your family moves ahead. Any last thoughts on what an individual needs to know about where and how they go about today, figuring out and joining the whole collective? And what about Invest Atlanta going to the website? Is there something particular you'd like them to see?
So visiting our website is definitely something that you should begin with. There is a wealth of information, and for every step, there are a couple of web pages dedicated to understanding what each step means, and there's contact information for each of our partners that can help you with that step. I would say, in addition to visiting our website, I would take a look at getting a subscription to any of the business magazines that come through, and that could be the Supporter Report, the Atlanta Business Journal. Those types of publications will help you understand what can be on the horizon in terms of redevelopment projects or companies that are moving to town that will sort of spur that type of economic growth. Those are those publications that can help you with sort of maneuvering and navigating through town as well.
Cool. Well, I think you come in to Ride, and obviously this Ride Lab has been great because you've connected the whole development of community, opportunity, and wealth building here in Atlanta, and for those who are visiting wanting to invest in building and helping our communities, our students who are here, parents who are thinking about a 4-year opportunity, and as their children leave their home and leave maybe Atlanta, maybe they'll make that their nest, and they'll be empty and the child will be gone, but they'll have paid a little bit in advance for a home.
Right.
So we appreciate all that you do, Ms. Lewis, and thank you for participating in this Ride Lab.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.